Perhaps we should continue this conversation after I get something to eat, Rose said, beginning to hold her stomach. Yeah, sure, kid, Jax responded, with a smile as he turned around and started making some gestures to the men coming in and out of the portal. Yeah, guys, contact one of the kitchens. Tell them to start having a full course dinner prepared. In fact, just keep cooking until I say otherwise. Once the first course gets done, start sending it through. We'll open a gate for them. Be sure to tell them to get some tables ready to bring out. In the meantime, you can just take all that stuff to the cabin. The coordinates should be locked in. Yes, Mr. Gabriel, right away, they said as they shuffled off back into the portal, and it closed behind them. Okay, dinner should be ready in just a little bit. Trust me, kids, you're gonna love what we got. We basically have everything. So, is all that food gonna get cooked on the moon? Yeah, that's where the restaurant is. Well, one of them. I've commandeered one for the time being. I can basically do that whenever I want. I can basically commandeer anything. Commandeer a sandwich shop, commandeer the pool. I'm the freaking king. I do what I want. What's the point in being the king if you can't flaunt being the king every now and again? Besides, it really comes in handy when I want to show off. For example, there are a lot of hoity-toity people out there in the universe. To some people, power is the only thing that really accounts for anything. So, the more I put it on display, the more willing they are to cooperate. But I suppose that's neither here nor there. Right now, let's get some food in your stomach. For the next few minutes, it was, well, a dance of portals, popping up here and there around the central tree where they were placed. People shuffling in and out. All of them looked relatively normal. None of the people looked very special. She assumed that people on Atlantis might live in a different way. Maybe their fashion would be different. But the way they dressed seemed fairly normal. Most of the people coming in and out of the portal, who were both men and women, seemed to dress in regular work attire, depending on what they were doing. The people who were lugging boxes usually wore loose-fitting clothing that was good for working in, breathe-well material. But she noticed that as chefs started to come out, loading down the tables that had been moved into place underneath the tree, they were dressed accordingly, as they brought out absolutely massive amounts of very good-looking food that smelled delicious too. And Rose took no time at all, beginning to dig in. Jax actually followed suit, having no problem starting to eat right next to Rose. His wife, Emily, did join them at the dinner table, but was not eating as voraciously as Jax or Rose. And Rose's mother, Mayrie, joined in. Although she sat at the table, she obviously didn't eat anything, simply sitting back, spectating as Rose ate, watching her go through one plate after another. Eventually, Rose actually got full, but remembering how things worked before, she continued eating long after that point. At this point, it had actually started to become fun, not having a stomach limit. She started to play games, like seeing how fast she could eat something, within a set time limit, beginning to make bets back and forth with Jax about how fast it could be done. But regardless of whether she succeeded or failed, her, Jax, Emily, and even her mother would laugh all the same. Rose was actually surprised at the amount that Jax ate, seeming to pack down quite a bit of food, much more than any regular person would be able to, and seeming unfazed by it. He didn't eat as much as Rose did, but still, far more than one could ever expect. Hey, how exactly do you eat that much? Rose asked. I mean, I have an endless stomach, so I kind of have an excuse. What's yours? Well, it's pretty simple. Basically, Well, my body isn't normal. My body is in essence a machine. A very complex machine. And that machine requires a lot of power. Energy doesn't come from nowhere, regardless of who you are. So I actually have to eat a great deal of food. Or I suppose I don't technically have to. Technically, I don't have to eat it at all. What? What do you mean? Rose said, looking at him curiously. Well, let me show you, Jack said, extending his hand and placing it on a fresh turkey that had been placed down only moments before. Rose looked at him curiously as a silvery liquid began to pour out of his hand, as if it was coming right through the skin, covering the turkey. And as it did, Rose began to notice the turkey seeming to dissolve away, as if the silver liquid was simply engulfing it all. Then, after the turkey was completely gone, only a puddle of silver liquid left on the plate. Jax once again extended his hand, placing it down into the pool of silver liquid, which quickly dissipated, being absorbed back into his hand. Whoa! That is cool! What is that? Rose shouted, standing up for a moment as she stared, watching the liquid flow back in. They're nanites, kid. Microscopic machines. Basically, they break down whatever I tell them to into its most base components. Proteins, iron, calcium, things like that. Once I break something down, then I can use the things that I gain from breaking it down to do whatever I want. Fix my bones if they break. Heal a wound instantaneously. Whatever I need, really. Repair damaged cells. It's all very complicated. Okay, I guess, but if you're a machine, then why do you need to eat at all? Hey, I never said I was a machine. Well, I guess sort of. But all biological organisms are basically machines when you get right down to it. Your moving parts are just your genetics, your cells. Each different type of cell having its own function and purpose. All working together in order to maintain and sustain your body and all of its functions. There are countless different types of cells in your body, all fulfilling a purpose. I, unlike a regular person, just have nanites in the mix that allow me to amplify a few things. Get creative, as it were. Well, how creative are you talking? Rose asked. How creative? Well, basically as creative as I want. Anything I want, anytime I want, the moment I want it. No way! So you could make, like, a gun and shoot me. Or, no, maybe not me. Someone else, don't shoot me, Rose said, starting to chuckle a bit. No, sorry, can't do a gun. At least not a normal one, like the one you're thinking of, most likely. You see, guns have chemicals that aren't naturally occurring in the human body. I might be able to make a gun, but the bullets wouldn't have any gunpowder in them. You got me? In order to do that, I would also have to gather the materials that are required to create gunpowder, all of the different chemicals, and then combine them inside of me. Basically, I would have to do internal chemistry in order to produce what was necessary for it. Okay, I think I get it. So you can make whatever you want, but before you make it, you actually have to have the materials required to make it. Meaning you have to absorb those materials from somewhere. Using those nanites, right? Yeah, pretty much. But that's actually a little bit confusing. I mean, you just ate a whole turkey. Where does that go? I mean, mine gets turned into some sort of protein, a highly concentrated type. But what about you? Where does an entire turkey go when it goes inside of you? Well, my body doesn't work the same as yours. Actually, my body works dramatically different than yours. Dramatically different than a regular human being's. I have multiple layers of different types of systems doing different things in my body. One of them is actually maintaining my internal versus external pressure. Basically, I'm much bigger on the inside. That is a play on words. I don't actually have some massive space on my insides or something. No, I'm just able to highly pressurize things. So that entire turkey takes up about the space of maybe a few grains of sand. Highly condensed matter. I keep a generous supply of different types in order to make things that I might need, but mostly it all centers around tech. Wow, so you can just make technology out of your body whenever you want. That's really cool, Rose said. I wish I had it that easy. Well, don't get ahead of yourself, kid. Trust me, I don't have it easy. These powers may be useful, but they definitely have their drawbacks. Drawbacks? Like what? Rose asked. Well, for example, I am actually originally a human being. So, if I want to function like a regular human being, I have to keep all of my human assets, you might call them. My skin, my hair, my blood. I have to actually maintain the level of my human biology inside of my body. The more technology I try to add to myself, the less room I have for my natural human biology. This is why I maintain a balance, a mixture of both technology and biological presets, organs, and all of that good stuff that humans need to eat and breathe and all of those very nice things that people enjoy so much. I can, of course, make sacrifices if it's necessary. Sacrifices? I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I'm getting the feeling that it's not fun, Rose replied. Trust me, it's not. It's unpleasant, to say the least. For example, if I'm fighting someone, but they have the edge on me, and it looks like they're going to pull the win, I can, of course, use my abilities to create something to level it out. Allow me to counteract their abilities or negate them. Some sort of tool or part that I need in order to succeed rather than be the loser. But that comes at a cost. In order to fit that in and add its functions into my own body, I have to make room for it. Highly condensed matter can't be forged until it's uncondensed. I have to release it from the condensed state and allow it to expand back to normal proportions. And normal proportions take up plenty of space, meaning I have to get rid of my biological elements. In other words, I might be able to make it, but I have to get rid of something, like making my stomach go away, getting rid of my kidneys, or my liver perhaps. Basically, burning them away in order to make space. And trust me, burning them away is an apt description. Luckily for me, I'm able to control my perception of pain, so I don't actually have to feel it unless I want to. But if that's not active, and unfortunately, there have been several occurrences in which I couldn't control my pain because, well, I needed it at the time, or because I didn't have enough room to continue blocking pain. When that happens, well, I have to feel it. It's sort of like being lit on fire from the inside out. Trust me, it's not something you want to experience. Ow, that really sounds like it would hurt. I'm not jealous of your abilities so much anymore, Rose said, taking her seat once again. Well, that does raise another question. If you can replace biological parts with mechanical ones, then what happens to you after it's all said and done? I mean, people need livers, right? Yeah, of course they do. Livers are very important. Basically, I have to suffer. Look, that's one of the problems with, well, my abilities. I can, of course, get rid of biological components in order to upgrade myself with mechanical parts. But biological components are a lot harder to replace than mechanical ones. If a machine breaks, you can just replace it with a new one easily. But livers and stomachs and kidneys and hearts, they're not the same. They're incredibly specific, incredibly complex, and take an exceptionally long time to recreate. Because I basically have to do it cell by cell. Manufacturing human cells is a time-consuming process. So, even though I can make replacement organs, for myself at least, it's not something that I like doing or that I'd recommend unless it's absolutely necessary. There's a cost to everything, kid, no matter who you are. Well, that's scary, Rose said. But it must be pretty good if you've been able to stick around for thousands of years. I mean, really, when were you even born? Kid, let's stop with the third degree on my past. Trust me, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. Okay, whatever you say, Rose replied. Well, what about you, Miss Emily? You said your powers are different, right? So what can you do? They have something to do with DNA? Yes, Emily replied. So I'm guessing that you'd like an explanation.